Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man in America. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. So today, I'm glad to be back in the studio with Dr. Kirk Elliott. We've got some pretty significant updates, and the big thing is JP Morgan Chase made a major move that, in my opinion, is pushing us straight towards some sort of dystopian novel social credit system. So we're going to be digging into this and really an update on the overall status of where the central bank digital currency is at and the social credit system, and whether it really poses a threat to our fundamental freedom. So folks, enjoy this interview with Dr. Kirk Elliott. Kirk, it's great to see you, man. It feels like it's been months. It's only been a couple of weeks. It's good to have you back on.
I know. So many changes, and it does seem like forever. It's like, man, where's Seth? What's going on? But busy life moves, studios. I mean, it's just wild as we grow and impact and influence and what God's doing in our lives, right? But it does seem like forever. There's no doubt.
Yeah, it's like time is moving faster now, and what used to take 6 months happens in a course of 6 weeks. And so,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it may look the same because we didn't redesign the studio, but I'm in a whole new studio. I'm across the nation. I'm not going to give out, even the state that I'm in, because I actually had people showing up to my house, like, because people knew I lived in Ohio, and they somehow figured out where I lived. It was really creepy. So now I'm just not going to tell people what state I'm in. But I'm in a studio that's probably 4 times the size of my previous home studio. And we have some really good plans. We're going to be building an in-person set. Hopefully you'll be coming out for like a long, 3 or 4 hour deep dive interview. So amidst the craziness, there's actually a lot of really good things going on.
Well, I can't wait for that. That would be great. And I'm really counting down the minutes till we get to do that, because there's always so much to talk about. And when we get together, it's just the synergy is even better than when we're just on a video call here. So I can't wait.
It is. So diving into, there's so much to talk about, but there's one story that I saw over the past couple of days that had all of my sirens going off, and for a lot of different reasons. And that is the story of Dr. Joseph Mercola had his Chase accounts shut down, and not just his Chase bank accounts. It was the opening paragraph says JP Morgan, and this is at MSN. Well, actually, it's a Daily Caller on MSN. JP Morgan Chase canceled Vax skeptic Dr. Joseph Mercola's business account. Listen to this, and the personal accounts of Mercola Markets CEO, his wife, and the company's CFO. And I think even their children had their accounts canceled, according to documents obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. So we also had Nigel Farage, who recently had his accounts shut down because of his relationship with Trump and his political stance. But this is frightening. I mean, you can maybe, you get kicked off of Twitter or your Facebook, you get into Facebook jail. That doesn't affect your life. But to have your bank accounts shut down by Chase, who also just so happens to be the bank that's buying up all these small to medium-sized banks as they collapse, is that a coincidence? I mean, what is this? What kind of future does this show you, Kirk?
Well, okay, so there's a lot to be alarmed with on this. So, most of our viewers on this show would really resonate well with the message of Nigel Farage or Dr. Mercola, right? It's like, so who is Dr. Mercola? He's not like a political activist. He wants people healthy, right? He has supplements, he has vitamins, he's a doctor, he wants them healthy, and he spoke out against vaccines, right? He was a skeptic on it, right? So, but they didn't give him that reason, really. They just said, we're cutting you up. But here's the scary part about what they did. They didn't just say, you're not being able to access your account anymore, but anybody that works for you, their spouses and their kids. It's like, what? So now anybody that kind of has an association with you, if they don't like you, could see their stuff go away, right? And their access to their money. Now, we've been here. So here's where we've been talking about for months now, the whole concept of central bank digital currency and the whole notion that it's all about control. It's all about people control. It's all about social control. It's like, Kirk, why would you say it's about social control? Because they said that it is. In the Federal Reserve docket OP-1670, when they're defining what money is in the FedNow app, this is where they basically designed the FedNow app and it was put in the Federal Register. The definition of money, a unit of exchange. Yeah, you give somebody some cash and you can buy something with it, right? It has a value, $5, $10, $20, and it should be a hold of value. You expect if you have this $20 bill in your pocket for a few months, it's going to be worth $20, a little while from now. Well, inflation is eroding that, right? So they got a problem with that. But they added this fourth definition to money, which is social control. It's like, so I don't say that I'm saying it. This is what they redefined money as. And now when you fast forward 3 years from those statements, we're seeing what they mean by social control. When you shut down Joseph Mercola because of his stance on vaxes, when you shut down Nigel Farage, a very popular, British politician, right? He led the Brexit movement. He was pushing for freedom for people in the United Kingdom to get out of the European Union. He wanted the people in England to be able to vote for themselves and have their voice heard, right? But so because he's a prominent politician, they had to give a 40-page dossier on why they gave him the boot from his bank, which was Coutts, Coutts was the name of the bank. Now, this bank is kind of this upper echelon, upper crust, snooty, kind of only wealthy people can go to this private wealth management bank, which he is a very wealthy person. I'm not talking about somebody that nobody would really care about, a bank, like you or me or Jane Doe that has $1,000 at Bank of America, right? Just this is a very prominent person. It's not somebody like us, right? So they were willing to actually take the heat for what they did. But in the announcement, in the dossier, when they explained why they got rid of him, so they said Brexit was mentioned 86 times in this memo, Russia 144 times, PEP, which I'm not even sure what that is. It might be some kind of a European thing, 10 times, but also support for Trump, views on immigration, net zero, and the vaccine. So ideology, right? So now they're getting in trouble for impeding people's freedom of speech. It's like, oh, and they claim, no, they have the right to say what they want to. It's like, no, they don't. People have freedom of speech nowadays if you agree with the globalists. If you don't, you have none, right? So that's how they're now defining freedom of speech. It's like, you can say whatever you want as long as you agree with us. Other than that, you can't say anything because now we have teeth and we'll cut you off from your money if you say anything that deviates from the message that we want you to say. It's gotten that extreme. And that's why this Mercola thing is actually even more scary, so to speak, than Farage. Why? Because it's an American bank. It's JP Morgan Chase. It's the bank that's buying up all these other banks around the country. And so pretty soon, you're going to have all this consolidation in the banking world, held under maybe 4 or 5 big international money center banks that are buying the medium banks. The medium banks are buying the small banks, all under this one umbrella with this weird notion that under programmable money, which is what central bank digital currency is, and under having in a central bank digital currency world, a new process where all of your assets come together under a unified ledger where they know the source of the funds, they know the use of the funds, they know who the owner is. It's the opposite of blockchain decentralized cryptocurrency where everything is private. They control the data. They know everything about you, but it's no longer immutable and it's no longer unprogrammable. meaning they can change the ownership whenever they want, for whatever reason they want. And ideology, or how you think, how you believe, is going to be whether you keep married to your money or not. I mean, this is what they are showing us by their actions.
All right, folks, I've got a quick message for you. I have one simple question. If today you could no longer go purchase more food for your family with the food stores that you have in your home, how long would you be able to feed your family? Would it be a week, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, a year? This is a really important question, folks, that we have to be very realistic about, because the elites are proactively trying to put us into a state of food crisis and a state of famine. I'm sure you've seen all of the different food processing plants and farms that are blowing up. You've got cattle dying by the tens of thousands. They're proactively trying to collapse our food system because they know if they can control our food, they can control us. And so one of the best ways to be outside of their control is to be able to have our own stores of food and to be able to produce our own food. So there's really two things I would recommend. One is having heirloom seeds that you can grow your own food with, making sure that they're non-GMO heirloom seeds, that way you can harvest your seeds this year, use them next year. You can use these seeds for generations. Literally, that's how it will work. The other thing, though, is this high quality storable food. This is food that's sitting somewhere. It's hidden in your basement, buried in your backyard, whatever it is. So that way, if there is a crisis, if there is an emergency, you might have 3 months set aside to get through that time period. And so for this, I would highly recommend a company called Heaven's Harvest. This is an amazing Christian owned patriot company. And what they're doing is they're making high quality storable food. Again, a lot of the food companies, they say these food buckets, they're all about maximizing calories per dollar. They're filling the buckets with a bunch of filler and junk like sweet beverages, etc. But Heaven's Harvest, they focus on very high quality food that will last up to 25 years on the shelf. They also sell heirloom seeds. So you can buy all of your seeds, you can buy all of your storable food. And look, folks, personally, I would recommend having at least 3 months per person in your household, if not 6 months or even a year. Again, depends on your budget, but I would definitely make sure you have some seeds, because those seeds could be worth their weight in gold, if not more, in the future. So to go ahead and do this right now, go open up a new tab and go to heavensharvest.com. And if you use the promo code Seth, that's SETH, promo code Seth, you'll save 15% off of your entire order. So again, folks, the time is running out and you'd rather be 3 months or 1 year early than 1 day late. Again, heavensharvest.com and use promo code Seth to save 15% today. Well, and what's crazy is that, here in America, we believe so much in the Constitution, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. And just looking at the First Amendment, there's been so much fight over the deplatforming that's been happening on social media, right? The shadow banning, the accounts being shut down, the demonetization. There's been so much about that. And it's like this is a direct threat to our freedom of speech. And the thing is that if you look at Twitter, or now X, which I like Twitter much better, but okay, that's a different story.
X, yeah.
Yeah, X, okay. But if you look at that platform, everyone's like, great, now we can say anything we want to. Well, it's like, well, what happens when they start, maybe they want you to do that, because maybe the next step of this is this social credit system where it's now going to be, you're going to all of a sudden get a message from your bank saying, look, based upon your recent social media activity, and here's some screenshots of those 4 different tweets you put out, we're going to have to cease doing business with you. I mean, what's going to happen to me? I mean, I'm certainly on some list somewhere. I'm a person that's sitting in front of a camera. I'm not just some anonymous, like Trump MAGA 45 or whatever. Like I'm a person that my name is Seth Wholehouse. I'm right here. So this is like what happened with Chase. And I don't want to be a fear monger, but that should frighten everybody. Because that right there, it's like what we're seeing is that they're inching forward, they're pushing forward this agenda, and they're doing it step by step by step. And it always happens with the big guys first. When they kicked Alex Jones off of social media, right, off of YouTube. I bet a lot of people, a lot of people said, "Oh gosh, well, Alex Jones, he's out there, he's the prominent one. I'm okay." Now look at how many accounts have been canceled. So when they start by going after Mercola and canceling his accounts, it's going to start trickling down until it's like now on YouTube, if you're an average everyday person with a small account, if you post something that goes against their guidelines, you're done. That didn't happen 10 years ago. It's now part of the entire framework. And so what's it going to look like? And is it going to be in 5 years that if you say the wrong thing, it's like, who cares if Elon Musk isn't going to delete your account for talking about something, right? That is deemed unacceptable to talk about, okay, the conspiracy theory. It doesn't matter if free speech is completely there on Twitter. If the banking system is going to use that against you and cut off your ability to access your money or to use that banking system, like this is a whole other world. Like to me, this is like the greatest threat to our freedom.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people said, well, this is going to be based on political grounds and it's like this has nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans. How do I know? Because Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a Democrat, was speaking out against vaccines and out against central bank digital currency as of late, saying this is possibly the biggest loss of liberty that we're ever going to have. A Democrat. And you know what? He's being just like ostracized by the media, right? It's like, wait a second, he's a Democrat, right? But he's not your modern day Democrat. He's like your grandparents' Democrat, right? Like his uncle, right? Where those Democrats, I would say JFK is going to be more like a mainstream Republican today,
Yeah.
right? Pretty much. And so
JFK
he's
is now
following that
like a
line,
far right conspiracy theorist on the
yeah,
scale.
yeah. So he's coming he's coming at it from a voice of freedom. He doesn't like vaccines, right? But yet now he gets his voice eliminated, right, on ABC, saying you can't speak this. He said, wait, I'm running for president. It's like, so what? We're going to tell the people what they want to hear rather than you telling them what you want to hear as a candidate. Evidently, even the Biden administration is cutting him off from Secret Service,
Yeah,
even running
that.
for president. You should get that. I mean, so it doesn't matter what political side of the aisle that you're on. It all has to do with your ideas. Are you pro clean energy, pro green energy? Do you stand for a small carbon footprint?
LGBTQ plus.
LGBTQ stuff. I mean, religious views. I mean, we're seeing Canada right now. See, look what happened to the truckers in Canada. Why did they get shut off from their bank accounts? Because of their freedom of speech, and they were boycotting stuff that was going on with their big caravan, right? So they got cut off. Well, Canada right now is, in my view, more communist than China, right? It's like Trudeau is doing horrible stuff to the people. Even a pastor, being sentenced to prison for 10 years, this is what they're going to face. His son, the pastor's son, was protesting something over 100 yards away from where the action was. They said, nope, you're too close. Now you're in trouble too. It's like freedom of speech goes the way of the dodo bird. And so I saw this article just this morning about it was the president of the Oil and Gas Association in America, very concerned that the Biden administration, because they've said things a couple of times now, are going to use Emergency Powers Act, COVID-19 style restrictions on the energy industry, right? It's like, what can they do? If they claim a climate emergency, what can they do? They can shut off communications. They can shut off anybody who's speaking out against carbon footprints and stuff like that, right? They can shut off your ability to heat or cool your house under a state of emergency, which is what they're calling for potentially. And why would I say that? Because UN Secretary General Guterres a couple days ago said this. He said, global warming, the era of global warming is over. It's like, sweet. But you know that there's another shoe about to drop, because he said, we're now in an era of global boiling. It's like, oh, for crying out loud. It's like, stop using such extremist words. We're not boiling. Yeah, it's been hot the last few weeks. That doesn't mean. So here's where their science is pseudoscience and it's all a bunch of garbage, right? Because they're using this, it's impacting entire economies, economic ecosystems across the globe. They're using it to change currencies, right? Because if you shut off oil and gas, look at everything that's going to impact. Plastics are made by oil, right? I mean, good. What do they want us to have, right? So you look at this stuff that's happening. It's like a boiling point in the economy, and so you've got Biden saying crazy things like, "We're going to block the sun because we need to cool the Earth down a few degrees." And here's the pseudoscience that's behind it. I thought global warming caused the oceans to rise because it melts the polar ice caps, right? They said if we cool down the Earth, well, then it's going to cause the oceans to rise, and a lot of the coastal cities might be underwater. It's like, wait a second, that's going to happen if you cool down the Earth. I thought it happened if you raised the. I mean, they don't know. They're just using these fearmonger tactics. But this is what it's all about. This is why I went down this rabbit trail, is because stopping people from accessing their money is the biggest fear tactic in the world. Just like the whole world is going to boil up and all the coastal areas are going to be underwater. They use fear. They use fake science. They use all this stuff to try to control by fear. That's not how people should be controlled. People shouldn't be controlled at all. People should be controlled by their own internal ethics and morality. And what God gives us is freedom to make a choice, right? With every choice that we have, whether we have a choice as Christians, for example, to sin or not to sin, to believe in Jesus or not believe in Jesus. Every religion has benefits of doing something the way that you should and consequences from doing the way stuff that you shouldn't, right? Every single religion. But when you're talking about these kind of things, that should be your moral compass, not fear. Freedom to make choices and have consequences, good or bad, from those choices, are what should compel anybody to do anything, not fear of cutting you off from your money. But this is the difference between God's economy and man's economy. One is motivated by fear, one is motivated by love, right? And so we're operating in our world right now in the system that's motivated by fear, and they're causing people to do stupid things, like literally line up for blocks to have your retina scanned by the WorldCoin orb that Sam Altman wants you to have because they're going to give you free cryptocurrency. It's like, don't do it. Seriously, don't. I'm looking at these pictures and I'm out loud. I'm saying, seriously, don't do it. It's like when you watch a thriller or a suspenseful movie and there's always the dumb people that go down the dark hallway and say,
don't go in that room.
I'm going to go in this door. It's like, no, as the viewer, you know there's a monster behind that door. It's like, you fools. Everybody always does it. But this is how I feel like they're just like lemmings walking off the cliff. They're saying, oh, yeah, I want to get my retina scanned. I don't know why, but it sounds like a good idea because it's going to be more convenient, right? It's like, boy, choices for the sake of convenience never have a good result.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that they're using their, unfortunately, I think a large portion of, say, America, not sure what percentage perhaps, will just follow along. And there'll be a day when they come out and they say, look, the fiat currency system has run its course. Look what's happening with the bank collapses, and here's why a digital universal bank, or UBI, universal basic income, is going to be really good for you, and they're going to roll that out. I think a lot of people will just say, "Oh, okay, great." I mean, look at people on their second and third booster, right? So, but this is something I think that, as again, you're coming back around to this and looking at what happened to Mercola, right? And I did a recent interview with Aman Jabi about basically what he's saying is that the social credit system is already here in America. It's just we don't see it in the same way we see it like we do in China. But it's here. The infrastructure is here. And that's what it's like with Mercola. It was a lot of ways, it was his digital presence that caused a ripple effect into the physical world where he can no longer go to that bank account and pull his money out at that ATM. right? No, they didn't steal his money. He probably had to move it to somewhere else, but still, there's real world ramifications. And so, I want to bring up. There's another Zero Hedge article I want to read through a couple of points on because it really helps drive the point home because we've spent a lot of time talking about central bank digital currency. And I still, as I said a year ago, I believe that CBDCs are the single greatest threat to our freedoms. They're the single greatest threat. So let me go read through a little bit of this article because this really helps put into words what life would be like under a central bank digital currency. So, pardon me, published on on Zero Hedge. So the CBDCs are coming, and the elite plan to use these digital currencies to enslave humanity. Not really mincing words with the headline there. Central bank digital currencies are feverishly being developed all over the globe, and this is something that should deeply alarm all of us. So I'm going to read this. This next paragraph is really important. For a moment, I would like you to imagine a world where the government instantly knows whenever you buy or sell something. No transaction would ever be truly private, not even your most personal or embarrassing ones. In addition, your money would not truly be your own under such a system. Your access to the digital currency system would be a privilege which could potentially be suspended or revoked with the click of a mouse. All of a sudden, you would not be able to buy or sell anything, and you would become an outcast from society. Under no circumstances should any government ever be given such power. Unfortunately, the central bank digital currencies are coming, and they're going to radically change how commerce gets done. So this is a long article that goes in and just details the progress that all the different banks have made, whether it's the Federal Reserve or the UK or the EU with the launch of their digital version of the euro. Brazil, how they're testing their central bank digital currency. It says that a CBDC is currently being tested in Brazil, and it turns out that it has hidden backdoor features that would actually allow the government to freeze people's funds and adjust their balances at will. Okay, even Russia with their digital ruble that was just signed into law, right? So this is serious, right? And then here it says that overall, it's being reported that 130 different countries are now interested in potentially developing their own central bank digital currency. So out of 195, 130 nations are moving towards building CBDCs. And so what it concludes, which I think is really important, is saying let us hope that nothing like this happens anytime soon, but we are truly living in unprecedented times, and they're only going to get crazier with each passing year. Understatement of the decade. If we're going to object to the implementation of central bank digital currencies, the time is now. Hopefully, we can get a lot more people in the general population to wake up because the clock is ticking. And so I just that really struck me, that article, because it's CBDC, it sounds like some fancy thing, but like looking at this is what it actually looks like. It's like, they told us you own nothing. Like that's CBDC is you own nothing. You're given a digital credit by the global centralized system. And as long as you play by their rules, you can still use that central bank digital credit that they give you. I mean, what do you think about after hearing me read that?
Well, the enslavement piece is a scary word, but this is exactly what they're doing, right? Because in a digital world where they can cut you off from buying or selling, unless you agree with them. I mean, isn't that really the true concept of slavery? Right? I mean, it is. Your money is not your own. Your life is not your own. You're giving up ownership. And this is what programmable money is all about, according to Dr. Pippa Malmgren of the World, Economic Forum. When she coined this term, I mean, maybe not coined it, but the first time we really heard about it was back in 2020 when she was talking about this. It's like, wow, programmable money. the ability to not let you buy or sell unless your digital social profile adds up to what they want, your social credit score. So the whole concept of immutability is so immutable and programmable, right? So those two concepts. So a blockchain, the cryptocurrency like what we're used to, it's immutable. I mean, it can't be changed. Non-programmable, it can't be changed. Under this new system, the back doors that you just talked about, the ownership can be changed. The amount can be changed. But here's one of the worst things about all of this. It has a time value. So you can program a time value to your money, meaning, let's just take this example. It's like, hey, Seth, you've been working really hard your whole life. You have $100,000 sitting in your bank account for retirement, right? You're saving up for a rainy day. You're saving up to buy a house. You're saving up to do whatever. Well, under this system, they say, well, yeah, it's July. Hey, Seth, December 31st of this year, all the money that you have is going to expire worthless. It's a use it or lose it, right? So it's like, what are you going to do? And they would use this to try to stimulate the economy. It's like, we need everybody to spend right now. Let's get us out of these economic doldrums. We're going to get everybody spending. Boom, economy fixed, right? This is their methodology. What happens on January 1st? You used all of your money. Now you're completely dependent on them for your credit and debit system. They control the purse strings, right? So I think the time factor that they can have with programmable money when it expires is so dangerous, because it could make people spend their entire retirement. So you're no longer dependent on yourself and savings and hard work. You're now dependent on the government, when in their own benevolence, they let you use your money when you want to, or when they want to, or not. It's not up to you. It's up to them. See, they can use these tricks to try to stimulate or slow down the economy, right? By having a time frame for money. It's a very dangerous concept, which is built in inherently to the programmability of money.
Exactly. And something that's why, as we're kind of rounding out here towards the end, it's just a realization, that I had, because obviously we talked a lot about central bank digital currency. We talked a lot about the de-dollarization and BRICS, and about precious metals, and just how all that fits together. And it's almost like, when I'm looking to the future, that if I thought life was going to continue normal, say for the next 10 years, and we're going to be slowly recovering, going, back out of the COVID stuff, and, everything was going to get back to normal, I would be treating my own assets very differently. Now, I'm not saying that, like, I'm a Mad Max person. I think that in a year, like, I'm putting everything I have into building an underground bunker with 10 years of MREs and 100,000 rounds of ammo, right? Like, I'm not there, right? But I am somebody that, like, I believe conservatively that within the next 5 years, we're going to see significant disruptions to our way of life that will eclipse what we saw with the disruptions that COVID brought about. Not to say that we're going to be in gulags in 5 years. I just think that we're at the end of a system, right? We're experiencing the death of an old system. They want to bring in their new system, but I think a lot of us are going to opt out of that and have our own system, and that's a whole different discussion. But when I'm looking at, like, my own assets, because I've been reflecting on this recently, because we're moving, we're in the process of moving, we're building a house, we're selling a house, and I've had to think about these things. Okay, like, how do I manage the assets that are associated with that? And something that I've realized, because if I have a little bit of extra money, I always just tend to go towards silver. Occasionally a little bit of gold if I come across something that's interesting, but it's mostly just silver. And it's because I'm not looking at it and saying, what can I do with this money that I can make 7% a year or 10% a year over the next 5 years? And it's like, it's not an investment vehicle, right? Like, I don't have any money in the stock markets. I pulled everything out of all that stuff, because for me, it's like, I want to do everything possible to take the assets that I have and just preserve them. It's like there's a storm coming, right? There's a storm
Yeah.
coming. I'm not interested in trying to look and say, well, the stock market's doing pretty well right now. So I'm going to keep this one in Apple and I'm going to keep a little bit over here in this. It's like I'm looking at it and saying, I think that sometime over the next 5 years, there's going to be some level of turmoil. And if so, my own personal belief is like, I'm just trying to batten down the hatches and secure what assets I do have to make sure that I can get through that and get to the other side of it and still have those assets. Because as much as like right now is like maybe the stock market's doing great and you're making 8-10% a year and you want to leave it in there, if after 5 years that gets wiped out, or as we saw with the unified ledger, as an asset, it all gets put on to the BIS unified ledger and thereby is now controlled as a digital asset in the same way that central bank digital currency would be. It's like I'm trying to avoid that in every way possible. And so I just wanted
Right.
to share that because obviously, we talk about precious metals and that's what you do, but I would never recommend anybody do anything that I don't really believe in. And I had this experience lately in thinking about it is like it really made me click and made me think, you know what? Like I feel like I've done the right thing. Like I feel like I've actually made the right decisions with how I've managed these things. I just wanted to share that with you because it was just this little kind of light bulb that had went off for me.
No, I mean, it's the same light bulb that's going off for a lot of people right now, right? People are scared, and I wanna leave people with, don't be scared. I mean, yeah, just because Seth, you and I talk about politics and the economy and how dark it is, it's like, we don't make up these rules. We don't make up these policies. The people that we voted for did, right? It's like, we're just talking about a bad policy, but yet, if I were to focus on the storm, I would be very scared. I simply would because there's no hope. There's no hope in the storm. It's too bad. It's too ugly. It's too nasty. The waves are too big. The wind is too strong. However, I'm focused on the solution. And in anything in life, when you focus on the solution instead of focus on the storm, that will put a smile on your face because you know that there's hope. You know that there's an answer. You know that you're not going to be in this spot forever, right? And we do have a solution. We have a good one. Whether it's investing into silver right now as a tangible asset that's not part of like this unified ledger, right? It's like real estate's going to be part of this unified ledger because it's not totally private. You have a title on it and you have property taxes. Therefore, it's not really private. Something that's totally private, it kind of gets out of that system. But we also have this other hope that's starting to percolate. And that is the rise of the state sovereignty system, right? Where you've got states' rights are coming up, and you've got states like Texas and Alaska that want a state chartered central bank backed by gold. Get out of the federal system, get out of FDIC, get out of this FedNow app system. And you've got governors like DeSantis in Florida saying, we're not going to accept CBDC. You've got 8 other states, Louisiana, Arkansas, Utah, Oklahoma, Wyoming, that are now saying gold is legal tender in our states, meaning you can use it as currency, right? So I've seen this groundswell of support. So one other thing that you can do outside of reallocate your assets, call your state legislators. Seriously, because they will answer the phone. Generally, their offices will. Try to call your US ones. You're never going to get through, right? But call your state ones and say, hey, what Texas and Alaska are doing, we want to do the same thing. Propose legislation for a state chartered bank to get out of this federalist juggernaut and actually bring us freedom. This is why we voted you in, right? So use your voice, use your power of your vote, use the power of your thoughts to help encourage your state legislators to start doing the right thing. Because in all of this globalist bringing everything together into one global union, I'm seeing the opposite start to happen too, and that's states wanting states' rights and away from this globalist, communist, fascist juggernaut, right? And having their own rights for their own people, for their own citizens of those states. This is what I see happening. It's almost like the opposite spirit starting to manifest itself when this government overreach and control starts really trying to dig in deep.
Yeah, and I think the key is just which boat are you on, right?
Yeah.
It's like, are you on their boat? Or are you on the boat of true sovereignty, right? So, Kirk, we've reached the end of our we have an hour set aside. But we always spend a lot of time chatting at the beginning, especially today. We haven't seen each other for some time, but if folks do want to get a hold of you, we've got a special link set up. Just goldwithseth.com. You scroll down, there's a really simple little form you fill out if you want to talk to Kirk or someone on his team. Just do a free wealth consultation, or the phone number is 720-605-3900. And yeah, Kirk, it's as usual. It's great to have you on. I appreciate you being here. And it's funny because I taken a couple of weeks off because of the move, and I saw multiple posts, multiple comments on Telegram and other places, people saying like, "Where's Kirk Elliott?" Like I missed my Kirk Elliott because we do our weekly interviews. So it's like something's up. If I don't, yeah. So I thought that was encouraging though. So. People like what you're doing. And actually I've gotten a lot of feedback of people that actually have called in and worked with you and like, gosh, it was incredible, so thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for all the support you've given me.
Well, thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate it. And I'll let the team know, because I do have an incredible team of people who love people. And that's what it's all about, of people who love people. And that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Well, take care, Kirk.
Thanks. We'll see ya.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?